Details of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral have just been released. The funeral will be taking place here at Windsor Castle next Saturday at 3 p.m. There will be no public access or public processions. The event will be within the current COVID guidelines, but still very much reflect the personal wishes of the Duke. There will be a national minute silence at 3 p.m. and his children and grandchildren are expected to attend, including the Duke of Sussex. But Meghan, who is expecting her second child, will not because of doctors' advice. Well, in the procession from the castle to St George's Chapel, the Duke's coffin will be moved inside a specially modified Land Rover. Well, in a moment, we'll be getting reaction from our royal commentator, Alistair Bruce, and from our US correspondent, Craig Milam, who's in Los Angeles, near the home of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But first, let's bring in our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, who joins me here. And Rhiannon, in the last few moments then, we're able to confirm that Prince Philip's funeral will be taking place just through that archway there in St George's Chapel. And it will indeed be a ceremonial funeral, albeit pared back.
That's right. We were told yesterday that Her Majesty the Queen was taking a final look at the plans for the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. And a large part of that was due to the fact that they are now dealing with the COVID restrictions and having to rearrange some of the plans to make sure that all of the plans that they've had in place for a number of years were still within the restrictions that the rest of the country are having to abide by at the moment. But as you said, we have now got official confirmation that the funeral will take place next Saturday at 3 o'clock. We also know that it will be a full ceremonial royal funeral. It won't be a state funeral. That is, of course, as we anticipated. We know that Prince Philip never wanted a fuss. It could have been the fact that the Queen could have allowed him to have a state funeral, which is usually afforded to monarchs, but the Queen could have allowed that to happen. But certainly the Duke did not want that to happen. But of course, because of COVID, it means that all of the ceremony and the military involvement has had to be significantly scaled back, because in the past we would have anticipated that we would have seen a lot more ceremonial taking place in the centre of London and then potentially his coffin being transferred back here to Windsor. Instead, we're going to see all of the funeral and the procession around it take place within the grounds here at Windsor Castle instead. So as I said, 3 o'clock next week, next Saturday, the ceremony will take place. We know that there will be no public access. There will be no public processions. The public will be encouraged, however, to take part in a national minute of silence, which will take place at 3 o'clock as the procession makes its way inside of St George's Chapel. We're also being told that the plans that are now in place are very much still in accordance with what the Duke himself would have wanted. And there is one particularly lovely touch within there, the fact that his coffin, as part of the procession, is going to be moved from the state entrance at Windsor Castle to St George's Chapel on the back of a specially modified Land Rover. And within the briefing that we've just been given, we were told that actually Prince Philip himself took a great deal of interest in that vehicle and helped to design it himself. So I think that is a wonderful touch for a man who was so interested in things like technology.
Knowing what we do about the Duke of Edinburgh and how he had a no-nonsense approach to life, one wonders if, given the COVID restrictions, in fact, that this pared-back funeral may indeed have been perhaps more to his taste even than the ceremonial funeral that he had indeed approved. Tell us a little bit about who will be attending, because, of course, family numbers strictly restricted whilst we are going through the pandemic.
Yes, so I think for the royal family, as right throughout the pandemic, they've shown that they've wanted to stick within the COVID guidelines and to set the example to the rest of the country. And I think also very conscious that many people have lost loved ones during the last year. And so when it comes to the funeral, they will stick to the guidelines. There will only be 30 people inside the chapel. When it comes to the congregation, there will, of course, be other members of clergy, and also the bearer party will be on top of that 30. We're told to anticipate that that will include, of course, Her Majesty the Queen, the Duke's children and grandchildren. But at the moment, we're still waiting for full confirmation of exactly who's going to be within that congregation. But yes, one thing that I think many people have been wondering and that is whether the Duke of Sussex would make his way over from America. It has been confirmed in the last few moments that, yes, Prince Harry will be making his way here for the funeral. However, Meghan, who we know is heavily pregnant with her second child, has been advised by doctors not to make that journey. So we wait till later in the week to find out a few more details about who's going to be in that congregation, who may carry out any readings when it comes to songs that may be sung. Those kind of details we're anticipating we will get later on in the week.